So, man, after a long, long day of driving in the rain, a cool visit to USDA in Nogales, an awesome experience for Logan to see the border. We finally we get to our final destination for the day, and that is Harshaw. Harshaw is a pretty magical place if you know anything about collecting insects. Harshaw is practically world famous. I want to say it's right up there with Madera Canyon. It's right up there with the Chiricahua Mountains in Arizona. When people come to Arizona to collect bugs or insects, they almost always end up at Harshaw at some point. It's just one of those places people seem like they're drawn to, and they hear so much about it. I've been going to Harshaw ever since my very first trip to Arizona back in 1985. I've been going to that place. Every time I go to Arizona, I try to get there. So we're going to get there, and we're going to get there actually just in time. It got dark just as we were arriving, so we had to set up pretty quick. Harry Zirlin was going to join us there, which is amazing as well. Harry is a great friend of mine from New York City, and he showed up expectedly, and he just adds a whole ball of fun to everything. I love this guy. He adds an amazing amount of knowledge and experience. He's been traveling all over the country for many years, but he has a very big spot in his heart for Arizona as well. So if he knows we're going to Arizona, he has a knack of showing up, and we always appreciate having Harry on site. I even visit with Harry if I'm doing programs in New York. I tend to stay with him if I can and just hang out with his family. He and his wife are amazing. So can't say enough about Harry. So that said, we're going to run lights tonight, and we're going to run lights pretty much all night because Harshaw is that kind of place. We want to make sure we pull as much stuff as we can, especially after a crazy busy day of driving around in rain and mud and not getting as much productivity out of the day as we were hoping to, but we still managed to make it to our final destination. And now we have beautiful weather, perfect weather actually. It's low 70s, and we're expecting to collect a bunch of insects tonight. So we're going to run lights. We're going to run our little traps that Casey has set up for us. We're going to definitely run some of those, and we're going to see what else we can pull with those. And we're going to try to maximize the evening's collect. So enjoy the evening of blacklighting in Harshaw. We woke up in Miller Canyon this morning to rain, hard rain, a lot of it, which was great for the environment but bad for packing up camp. We managed to get it done. We got out of there, and we spent the majority of the day driving out over the mountains and down into the valley, and then again into the Patagonia Mountains, which is where we are tonight. Check it out, man. Because of those rains, we're seeing a ton of bugs coming out. Rain motivates. It also turns it on. It brings up the humidity, and that is going to increase the insects. We've got our lights going this night, and we're in the canyon, and we are having a great time down here in Harshaw tonight. Check it. We've got a lot of cool things coming in that we haven't seen most of the week. We've got rustic sphinxes. Down here we've got a Citheronia splendens. Look, that's the western version of the royal walnut moth. The regal moth, one of my favorite moths in the East, also occurs out here as a western species. How cool is that? There are imperials. We're coming tons of big sphinx moths. There's owl flies. There's a bunch of cool stuff coming in, and this is why we do what we do. This stuff was showing up in tiny little numbers the last 2 nights. Tonight, we're showing big increases, all because of rain. Rain is key to the desert. Now, not only did Harry Zirlin come out and meet us in Harshaw, if you remember when we were at the USDA station in Nogales, Jason Botts was there, and he hosted us. Jason showed up as well in Harshaw. Look, man, it's It's a collection of very unique individuals, all of which are really cool people. And I had so much fun hanging out with these people, because what a neat collective of entomology-minded people to bring together in a canyon in, southwest Arizona. So super, super neat. Just an outstanding group of individuals, and I had a great time blacklighting that night with those guys. All right, we are in Harshaw. The lights are running. We have temps in the high 70s, and we have big humidity from all the rain that's been around all day. Fantastic, best conditions ever, and things start happening really fast. Within the first hour, we had owl flies show up, and that's very typical. In Southwest, owl flies are some of the first insects to come to lights. Even if the sun is still slightly up, you can run lights and bring these things in, which is cool. We also had typical early arrivals from these cool oakworm moths. They're super neat. And the imperial moths. Everybody seems to like imperials. And out here in Southwest, they are really bright colored, so they're just beautiful. Of course, the cool green scarabs show up. The glorious and the bare-eye scarabs both show up on the scene, and in big numbers as always. And how can you not love these beetles? That's one of my favorite Southwest beetles of all time, I think, and I never see enough of those. Eventually, some of the cool, creepy stuff then starts to arrive, like giant water bugs. A lot of people don't know these things fly at night and are attracted to lights. Well, they're pretty common here, and they're also pretty common across the southern U.S. So we kind of expect to see those, but they're always fun to see. And of course, tarantulas. How can you go wrong with tarantulas in the Southwest? And here's a catch, man. I don't think these things are coming into lights. I think these things just happen to cruising through, and we just happen to put enough light on the scene that we see them. I've never one time seen a tarantula feed off of insects at a light sheet. I've never seen. They usually shy away, and they just kind of bump into things as they go. Just kind of like this guy's doing, just cruising through, but they're always a ton of fun to see. Check it out, man. Now, we're bouncing between two stations. We have our light station up here. Casey's about 200 yards away. And Casey Smith's station is actually bringing in probably a few more things, especially in the larger, like the saturnids, some of the bigger moths and things. Primarily because he's in a wider, more open area, which is good. We, on the other hand, put ourselves sort of in a closed little cove back here, but we're still bringing in a ton of cool bugs. Now, temperature in this case is what is making the deal here. Every time we've moved up canyons and gone up in elevation, it's gotten chilly. We're coming up on midnight, and it is still holding at about 74 degrees. That is perfect. So the insects are still coming in, and almost every time we make the switch between the two stations, we're seeing more at each station. So still in Harshaw, obviously, but we wanted to try the basket light traps that Casey gave us to use in Miller Canyon. These things worked fantastic in Miller Canyon. We saw a bunch of activity, but they were not as effective in Harshaw tonight because they should have been, but they weren't. And I think it was mostly because a lot of the LED lights, the batteries had run a little bit low because we burned them all night while we were in Miller, and they just weren't as effective. So we ended up packing these things up at about 2:30 or 3 o'clock in the morning, just so it was all done. We really didn't want to run them completely dry. The mercury vapors and the ultraviolet light stations were doing fantastic as always, and Harshaw was proving itself to be worth all the time and effort that it took us to get there. Hey man, be sure you like and subscribe to the channel if you like what's going on here and you enjoy it, then help me out. All right, thanks. I appreciate your support. Take care, guys. Let's get there. Blacklighting offers an opportunity to attract huge varieties of insects. Most people assume it's moths that we're after because we tend to highlight the moths. But we have beetles, we have manted flies, we have bees, we have dragonflies, all kinds of stuff. And tonight we have the giant water bug. Aquatic insects often are attracted to lights at night. The adults are going to fly at night. Even if the immatures stay in the water, the adults are still going to go out and seek mates. So they leave the water and they fly almost always at night, and therefore can be attracted by lights. This is a giant water bug, and giant is a good name for this one. They're in the family Bellastomid, and these guys are totally cool. I've kept these as pets, and I know for a fact they eat crayfish. They'll also eat salamanders and frogs and fish, but these particular Bellastomids, they love crayfish. They will actually stalk crayfish and voraciously eat them. They do pack a pretty good punch. They pack a sting. They pack a venom, if you will, that will melt the internal tissues and enable them to literally suck the juices back out. So they seem like a vicious kind of bug, but at the same time, this is just one of nature's predators that it puts in the water. And this is a giant water bug. All right, we are cresting 3:30 in the morning. The lights are still bringing in bunches and bunches of bugs and insects. Super cool. These modest sphinx show up. This is the Western kind of version of a poplar sphinx that we have in the East. Those are super beautiful. The brick red Glover eyes, the Glover silk moths, that is a classic Southwest moth if you ever saw one. These 5-spotted hawk moths, this is the tomato hornworm, those green worms on your tomatoes. Beautiful moths. This is a big female. Bright orange spots on the abdomen give this moth away. The owl flies, never a small abundance of those. Those things are always out there. I love these things. That is a Hubbard eye silk moth. Quick look at that one. The eclairs. This is a really cool extreme Southwest imperial or version of it. I see these all the way down into Mexico. The rustic sphinx, you can't go wrong with those. Again, very, very classic out here, but we also see these in the East. The ones in the West are really beautiful. They're really, really bright white. That imperial is another classic. We've seen tons and tons of those on this trip. I suspect we're going to see some of those in California Gulch. There's the moth everybody loves. These things, the splendids, are such a cool moth. And again, that's a big female. And then by the time we're topping out, somewhere between now and sunrise, the predators are going to show up. And that includes beetles. A lot of people don't realize that beetles can be predaceous. This Calisoma beetle is munching on that moth and just tearing into it. That's awesome to see that going on. And of course, the tarantulas show up. And you can't go wrong with tarantulas, man. Such a classic Southwest kind of bug to see show up. Not an insect, but it's a bug. And we do love to see those. Look, man, it's been an awesome night of blacklighting. We are extremely privileged to be here. And we had such a good night of it. But we got to pack it in. We got to grab some sleep because we're making a big drive to California Gulch tomorrow. So we're going to start shutting down the lights, and we're going to start tearing things down once the sun gets up.
Oh, look at him.
This is a Citherona splendens. It's a western species of the royal walnut moth. And this is a male. And this is a really, really beautiful one. These moths are super cool. They're one of my favorite in the East, and obviously they're going to be one of my favorite in the West as well. The caterpillars are known as hickory horn devils in the East, and they're some of the largest caterpillars in the United States. But out here in the West, I'm not sure what they call them, to be honest with you, the caterpillars anyway. But they're still just an incredible moth nonetheless. How in the East we have more orange, more contrast just between orange and gray, whereas then in the Western ones like the splendens right here, they mix in this white into the wings. It's such a cool, just a beautiful moth. Hey guys, these are Chrysina beetles. They're Chrysina berrii, jewel beetles. There's 4 jewel beetles in the United States, and 3 of them just happen to be in Arizona. And these are the largest. The Chrysina berrii, Bear's jewel beetle. And check these out, man. Look how absolutely gorgeous these things are. They're called jewel beetles because they were used as jewelry by the indigenous people. And they fly. How cool is that? Totally harmless. They don't bite. Native to the United States, and especially right here in Arizona. This is a scarab beetle. It's native to Arizona, and this is one of 4 types of jewel beetles in the United States. 3 of those are in Arizona. This is the Chrysina gloriosa, the glorious jewel beetle. Check out those colors. Check out that iridescence. Jewel beetles are called jewel beetles because they were used as jewelry by indigenous people. They're harmless and native and absolutely beautiful. These are scarab beetles. These are 10-lined June beetles. They're native, they're harmless, and they fly. And we're finding these in Arizona. They come to lights at nighttime, and they're just really cool little beetles. And they make sound. This beetle's making that sound by lowering its abdomen and pushing it up against the elytras, and in doing so, it creates a vibration that makes that sound. Ten-lined June beetles in Arizona. What day it is.
I don't know. It's the dawn of the
Thursday.
Day.
It's Thursday morning, and we are packing up from down here in Harshaw. We're gonna go have breakfast a little bit when we get done here, and then we are going to head east towards California Gulch. The goal of California Gulch is to just do some day collect if we get there in time, and then, which we should, and then we're going to set things up and run some more black lights. The uniqueness of California Gulch is not only the fact that it is pretty much desert, like desert, but at the same time it is also right up against Mexico. So we're going to actually be at a black light probably closer to Mexico than we have run lights at least all week. So that's kind of cool.